Good afternoon to all of you. This is Yashveen Ansari from Communicative English 19CB419. Here I will give a light on the subskills of reading. Before we going through the text, let's talk about the linguist first who introduced it. Whether in a first or second language, the act of reading involves a complex set of linguistics and other skills. You may think that because of reading is an activity which allows us to understand written communication, that it represents a purely linguistic skill. However, much of what we process when we follow a written text in fact uses another set of metacognitive skill which allow us to navigate message and obtain information about the writer, the tone, and the organization of writing, giving us a complete picture that what and how are we writing. Very famous linguistics a very famous linguist, Christian Terrell, in 1998 identified the four main subskills of reading as skimming, scanning, intensive reading, and extensive reading. Notwithstanding, it is important to keep in mind that these subskills complementary interact with the reading strategies. This says the third skills in language acquisition. It requires great deal of concentration on a material to be read, taking appropriate note of the words and their pronunciation and also punctuation mark that guide the reading for meaningful comprehension. Let's talk about the scanning. State that scanning refers to searching for specific information with the text where a quick glance it's taking to find the relevant information without reading the whole text. Scanning is commonly used in everyday life. For example, when looking up a word in a dictionary. When scanning, will be looking for keywords or phrases. These will be especially easy to find if they are names because they will begin with a capital letter or number state. Okay, so basically we use scanning about facts. Suppose that we are reading a paragraph for taking uh, out important name, place, and dates, or if I will say any important phrase or special place, etc. Another example is a dictionary, because out of many words we choose one specifically. So we can also say that that word we use is for scanning. Another is skimming. So Krishnan Terrell in 1998 mentioned that this is a reading subskills follows scanning in a way it is a performed, which means a quick glance to extend where is it? Sorry. Which means a quick glance extracts superficial information of a text without major details, but instead of trying to find a specific word or information, it focuses on the journal essence of the different part or section of a text. Skimming often refers to the way in which one reads at the faster rate to gain the journal idea about the text without paying heed to the intentional and detailed meaning of the word of the text. For example, when one reads text only in order to understand the thesis statement in one or two lines. Okay, we use skimming for taking all over idea of the text. Suppose that we are reading a text and from that we get a journal idea what the text is all about. Afterwards we express in a short form, like in 50 words or in 100 words and in a short para we can express it. But in skimming there is no need to write a summary or précis of the text. Difference between skimming and scanning: in simple words, uh, we can say skimming is reading rapidly in to get general overview of the material, and scanning is reading rapidly in order to get a specific fact. So in scanning we can say we read rapidly, or we read so quickly about uh, to take important facts only for the important fact, and skimming, so we quickly read anything to get a general view or general idea about. So what is extensive reading? A famous linguist, another famous linguist, Yamashita, in 2015 identified these subskills that as that we are great quantities of easy and interesting reading material are consumed, allowing the reader to enjoy reading and to read quickly, which leads to the high volume of consumption. This pleasure reading is mostly done out of enjoyment of discovering and learning from the text. Possible example of extensive reading material: magazine, graded readers, and novels. Basically, if I will say, extensive readings means reading in quantity and in order to gain general understanding of what is read. It is intended to develop good reading habit, to build up knowledge or vocabulary and structure, and to encourage a liking for reading. Intensive reading is generally at a slower speed and requires a higher degree of understanding than the extensive reading. Extensive reading, or if I will say that when we study something in big quantity for for entertainment and getting general knowledge about that, such as any fictional and non-fictional novel, magazine, or any book just for fun. So this is called intense extensive reading. This In this we don't go through in the nuances of the book. In extensive reading, if someone is asking us to give an exam about, so we are unable to do, because we can't recall everything in detail, each and every point in line. On the other side, intensive reading is part the linguist Spart describe it as the opposite of extensive reading, where the general comprehension is not the focus of examine, and studying the language takes central stage, which is also called reading and for details, which is also called reading for details. Hatami and Nesl in 2017 add that intensive reading consists of extracting specific linguistic elements from that short portion of the text, which means that the text is used as linguistic object to analyze grammatical pattern as well as particular and concentrate lexical items. Some possible examples of intensive reading materials are reports, contract, news article, blogs, posts, and short pieces of the text, such as short stories. So, if I will say, okay, if I in my point of view, whatever I understood, but whatever I read and understood, intensive reading, we study specifically only for the knowledge and thesis, as we study for the exam. For example, short stories, comprehensions, or if I will say, we read the report, or we reading a newspaper. Intensive readings involve learners reading in detail with specific learning aims and tasks. It can be compared with extensive reading, which involves learners reading texts for enjoyment. Or okay, if we will differentiate and making a difference between, so in very simply way, extensive readings are those which we use to read mainly for pleasure, but on the other side, intensive reading, we study in detail and getting knowledge of everything. So conclusion, in my opinion, conclusion, as we all know, subskills are very important part for us. Somewhere or everywhere we are using it from so far, but somehow we are unaware of this. This is how this is impacting on our reading. Subskills really help us to improve our reading skills, and if we will focus on it, our linguistic ability will definitely improve. Thank you. I hope my presentation would reach your expectation, and if any queries, please ask. Thank you.